If you went walking down the street and asked a group of people, do you know who Johnny Depp is? They'd probably say, yeah. If you asked them, do you know who John Rolfe is? They'd probably say no. And probably not care to know who he was. But I'm here to tell you who he is. John Rolfe was a man born in England in 1585. He was married to his first wife in 1608, where they set sail to Virginia. And on their way to Virginia, they were in a shipwreck because of a hurricane that ultimately got them stuck in Bermuda, where they had been stranded for quite some time. John and his wife had a daughter who unfortunately passed away. And in May of 1610, him and his family were finally off to Jamestown, along with all the other people that were stuck there after conducting these two small boats that helped get them there. After they finally got to Jamestown, Virginia, they settled in and kind of got to know what the whole area was. And in 1612, Rolfe began experimenting. He wanted to try something new, and the Native Americans had already had this tobacco that was too harsh. Nobody from the English side liked it, so none of the colonists liked it whatsoever. So John Rolfe decided to fix that. He planted some seeds from the West Indies, which produced a crop that was so much sweeter. And it was pretty good. It was cheap. It wasn't what England or the people from England were used to, but it was cheap, and it was a major moneymaker. And because of him making this or planting this and successfully finding out that, this crop can grow here, it gave him a good standing in the colony. People liked him. People wanted him around. Now, in 1614, a woman named Pocahontas was kidnapped by the Jamestown settlers, who, unfortunately, this caused quite some tension between the natives and the colonists. But after John Rolfe met her, he fell in love, asked her father for permission to marry him, and they got married, which, thanks to them, it left peace for both the natives and the colonists, which is a very big thing. Now, it only lasted for 8 years, and I'll get to that in a second, but the couple had a child, a son named Thomas. They all three went to England to meet the king, which I think is pretty cool. I would love to meet the king. And in March of 1617, they set sail back to Virginia, and unfortunately, Pocahontas became very ill. Pocahontas unfortunately died in 1617 and was buried in a local churchyard. Now, Rolfe decided to leave his son in England so that his son can get a greater education, which wouldn't happen in the Americas. So that's what he did. When he got back, though, he became the secretary and the recorder up until 1619. And then in 1621, he was appointed the Council of State. He later married again to a woman named Jane Pierce, and they had a daughter named Elizabeth. He continued his tobacco plantation, producing a dramatic amount in the 1620s, and this caused a great migration over to the colonies, which in my eyes is a very good thing, because it helped bring more settlers to America, and we wouldn't be what we are today if that never happened. So thank you to the tobacco plants. Unfortunately, John Rolfe died in 1622 after his plantation was destroyed by the Indians. And they're not entirely sure if the cause of death was because of the attack or if he had gotten ill. So, in all reality, the tobacco that John had created for Virginia was a huge success for him, which makes him a very relevant person because he made this crop that was important and it helped with the cash flow. And his wife, Pocahontas, was a very important piece of his history because without him and her getting married, there would have been no peace in the colony. And because of them, it allowed them to have peace for 8 years when she passed, up until she passed away. So this is why I believe that John Rolfe is a very important person in history. He created the tobacco that helped him and the colonists be successful. He also kept peace. And although the peace didn't last a long time, it still lasted. So that is important also. And that's what I have on John Rolfe.